I'm ready to insulate and vapor barrier the attic space prior to putting the cladding back on, but I cannot leave the attic space in the condition in which I left it, which is to say all the insulation pulled apart, pulled aside in order to do all the wiring. I do have to put that insulation back. I have to level it. I'm going to use some of that pink fiberglass that I took out of these walls, which I'll be replacing with rock wool. And so I'll do that over the bathroom, which is in behind me. So there's a fan and two LED puck lights. So I'll put pink insulation in there so that if ever I have to get at those fixtures and remove them from the bathroom side, I'm not going to have insulation falling on me. Loose insulation, the blown-in insulation, which is basically a cellulose fiber, which is not nice stuff. The access to the attic is actually from the other room on this floor through the closet. It's a little bit tricky to work around into this section, and this is the only section that would need anything. I mean, it's for the bathroom fan, for example. What makes this a difficult passage is that roof there, which is the end of what was originally, when this house was built in 1920, it was a hip roof. And so when they put this, basically this gable roof on front to back, they used this structure for strength. So it's tied in to the current roof. This will be tricky access, but I'll try and put boards down in there so that a person could crawl through that space. But it would be really difficult in the dark and trying to navigate these narrow passageways in the enclosed attic. So I'm going to put down duckboards. I'm going to put a little walkway, or in this case, it would be a crawlway. You're not standing up in there. But at least it would make it a lot easier to access this space. And I have to do that now before I can move on, and I'm really wanting to move on. So I need to get that done. On the opposite side of the room, I'm not going to do the duckboards. It's not necessary. They're just lights over there. But this side, because I wanted to be able to access the fan for the bathroom and the two lights that I put in. And also there's a vent, of course. There's an insulated vent for the bathroom. That might need servicing. For some reason, somebody has to get at it. That may not be me. I hope it's not. But I got to tell you, man, if I ever walked into an old attic or crawled into an old attic among the blown-in insulation, and I saw a little duckboard road that was laid out, I would get myself off to the nearest jar store. I would buy a pint of whiskey, and I would toast the glorious bastard who thought of that. So I've added some backing. These backing strips were just offcuts from a table saw when I was resizing some boards for the window, in fact. And I simply did that because in an old house like this, these 24-inch on-center studs might not be that. They could be less, they could be more, and they shouldn't fall out. But if these ones were to fall out, if some of these sizings are a little bit sloppy, I just have some strips there to arrest their fall back into the attic. It's just a precaution, and I had the time and I had the wood. And you know what? This pneumatic this air compressor and nailer, I'm loving it. I would not have done this had I had to go in there and nail little finishing nails, but I've got a 16 gauge, sorry, this is an 18 gauge brad nailer, and it's just a question of boom, 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 boom. It makes it, it's wonderful. Yeah, one sec. Why wasn't I told? Why did nobody inform me of the wonder and the marvel that is compressed air? Why did my friends and family not stage an intervention and say, Mike, you got to stop doing it the hard way. You got to get yourself up to Home Depot and get a Porter Cable 6-gallon compressor with 3 tools, an 18 gauge, a 16 gauge brad nailer, and not only that, but with the tool that's going to change your life, the stapler. But they didn't. I had to find it out for myself. It would have been nice to know earlier. Nevertheless, let's get back to the video. That's baffling. Literally, that's baffling. That is meant to take air from the open side of the attic, and it'll transmit it up this channel under insulation and drywall and up into the open cavity space above the ceiling, which will take it to the roof vent and hopefully keep the room a little bit cooler. I will have at least a half a dozen, maybe more channels for air to actually move. You can see there how there are sort of egg carton shapes to prevent the thing from being crushed in the cavity space by the weight of the insulation once it's pressed with drywall. But hopefully that'll provide some airflow and won't transmit too much sound. Yeah, it does kind of look like a crime scene, doesn't it? We'll have to get a spatter expert or a forensic pathologist of some kind to get in here and tell us how that plastic slipped when I was putting it in. Now, I'm not going to claim that it's pretty, but I mean, even Dr. Frankenstein thought that the monster was pretty hot stuff. I mean, I don't know about the plugs in his neck, though. I don't know what that was about. Maybe that's where the oil and air went in. And once I put up that inside wall, no one's going to see it. It'll be our little secret. At any rate, it's all done. The job is pretty much done. Wherever two pieces of plastic meet, there is a seam of Acoustiseal. All seams are sealed, and that's the whole point. So I have a good impermeable moisture barrier. This is Cat 5E. I need to run this cable through the ceiling and bring it down behind this chimney here. My current booth has a hardwired Ethernet connection downstairs. When I put that in, I left plenty of cable because I knew one day I might come up this chimney chase, and I will. So I have lots of length. I'll bring my internet cable up here. I'll terminate it on a wall jack. That wall jack will feed a switch. I will then run this cable on the other side of the room to an Ethernet hard jack there. I'll terminate that here behind the chimney on a second jack, a wall jack, which will then feed into the switch. So the switch will provide my Ethernet connectivity to my recording computer here, or it'll feed a cable running across the other side of the room over there. Over on that side there, I will have Ethernet and coaxial TV. Okay, so I've custom cut some pieces that I'm going to crib onto the collar ties, which you see here, which are really only just 1x6s, and so 3/4 of an inch. They're not very beefy. All of that flooring that I said I would use for this, that, and the other thing, well, this is one of those other things. So I'm going to crib them in there for two reasons. One is I'm going to provide myself a good surface on which I can screw the drywall. So it'll be 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches wide versus the 3/4 that I currently have. But the second and more important thing is that I'm going to beef up the collar ties by doing this. But I'm going to install them with construction adhesive, which means they're not going anywhere. I'll staple them anyway just to keep them in place while the adhesive cures, but it cures and dries really fast. Once I got the collar ties beefed up, I was able to finish the vapor barrier on the walls. And what was more of a challenge, getting the ceiling insulated and vapor barriered one opening at a time. It's hard sometimes to work alone, and it can certainly take a lot longer without help. But at least I managed to avoid suffocation by wrapping myself in plastic. So I got that going for me. Next time out on Sound Sense, it's time to build the frame around the chimney and get the wood cladding back up onto the walls and ceiling. That's next time on Sound Sense.